I'm Emily Mashak, and you are listening to Tuned Into NoCo, Town Square Media's show that lets you know what matters in NoCo. I am sitting down today with Bart Bartholomew, the president of Veterans Honoring Veterans. So thank you for being here today.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Emily.
For those who don't know, what is Veterans Honoring Veterans?
Well, it's not really a business, but yet it is a business. It's a nonprofit to where we recognize veterans in northern Colorado, preferably Larimer County right now, and honor them by giving them a statue of their branch of service that they served in, and at no cost, just for raising their hand and saying, I do.
Yeah. How did the organization get started?
Well, I kind of stole it from a fellow sailor. I was at a ship reunion a few years ago, and at our banquet that evening at the peak of the night, one of the sailors got up and got the podium and called another sailor up, and when the other sailor got up, they handed him a little statue and looked pretty cool. So after the banquet, I went up to him and I said, hey, what are you doing? Can anybody do this? Is it a franchise? And he says, no, it's just something I started. So I came back to Colorado and talked to a few people and see if they would like to join in on something that I would like to try as a hobby. And the hobby turned out to be a full-time, well, not a full-time job, but it's a 501c3, and we're a nonprofit and got a board of directors. So it took off like gangbusters, and we're giving about 16 statues away every month on the first and third Saturdays at the Golden Corral in Loveland.
That's awesome. It must be exciting for you to see how it's grown.
Well, it was really surprising. Like I say, I thought it was going to be a hobby, and it turned out to be a full-time job. I've given, as of our next event, will be close to 200 statues away, and I've got close to 300 veterans on the waiting list wanting to get a statue, so it could go on and on.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. And I also want to say thank you for your service.
Well, thank you very much for both.
Of course. Can you tell me a little bit about your time in the military and what being a veteran means to you?
Certainly. I got a draft notice right out of high school, as most people did in the 60s, and already had some friends from high school go to Vietnam and knew about the draft, so I went across the state line in Kansas, and I said, hey, Mr. Navy, is it against the law for me to join the Navy and not have to go to the Army? He said, absolutely not. So I raised my hand and joined the Navy and served 4 years, 3 on one ship, and my last one on another ship, and had probably 3.5 tours of duty in Vietnam on the coast of Da Nang and the Tonkin Gulf.
Wow. And
what it means to be a veteran is now it means an awful lot for what I did and every other veteran before me and since have done. At 17, you really don't know for sure what you're getting into, but it turned out to be a really pleasing experience. Met the love of my life and got married while I was in the service and spent the last 50 years with her. So everything just turned out just the way I wanted it to.
Oh, that's sweet. Now, you honor veterans through these service statues.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about these and how it works for each different branch and what they look like, things like that?
Sure. When we started putting this thing together, I have four ladies, all who are veterans themselves, on my board, and I asked them. I said, I've got an opportunity to give male statues away to the males, and they look like a soldier and a Marine and a sailor and an airman and a Coast Guardman, and but I don't have anything really for the females, even though there's a lot of females that are pilots now, and there's a lot of females that are actually getting into combat. We've lost a lot of female veterans to casualty, and a lot of them have lost limbs by fighting in the wars. But yet they really don't have enough recognition for statues. So what I did with the ladies is we've got a eagle holding the American flag in its talons on a nice little stand, and so that's what we give our lady veterans. So the gentlemen get a nice representation of their branch of service, and the ladies get the eagle and the flag statue. And on the base of these statues, we have their rank at when they was last in the service, and how many years they served, if they was in a conflict or not in a conflict, if they was given some medals and stuff like that. So we make the statue as warm as it can be, to make sure when they put it on their mantle or set it on their dresser, wherever they put it, that it's kind of fun to look at, and it'll go on to their generations after them.
Yeah, it's a really special keepsake for them.
Well, it is. We hope so. I have to admit that there's been a few tears that have fell out of their eyes when they get them, because a lot of veterans didn't get a lot of recognition when they was once they got out of the service for one reason or another, and to get something so small, just to say thank you, means a lot to them. So it just does my heart good to see it too. I don't want anybody crying, but I know where they're coming from, and those are tears of joy.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how veterans honoring veterans has impacted people? I know it means a lot to them, but do you have any personal experiences you remember where you saw that it really touched someone?
Well, yeah, I can. I'm not going to bring up names, because this particular one I'm going to talk about is a very highly decorated veteran of the Vietnam time, and he asked. As a matter of fact, he turned it down the first time when we offered it to him. He says no. He said there's more deserving people than me, and then a week later, I guess he had talked to somebody, and somebody kind of convinced him that it would be okay to receive his statue. But he had several medals of gallantry and honor, and he'd been wounded a couple times, so he was in the thick of it, and he came out, and he's all right. But as we presented him the statue, he didn't see the three medals that he was most noted for on the side of the plate, or the brass stand that we have on there. And after the ceremony's all done, I went and shook everybody's hand and said, "Thanks for your service," personally. And I said, I'll just say Joe. I said, "Joe, you was really in the thick of it, and I want to thank you very much for your service and appreciate what you did, and sure glad you're here, and I'm glad we had an opportunity to give you a statue." And I said, "What do you think of this?" And I showed him what I was talking about, because he looked at the very front of the statue, saw his nameplate with his information on it, but didn't look at the side of the stand, and that's where the insignias of the medals were, on the side. And he said, "Wow," he says, "I didn't even see that." And that's where I saw a tear come down his eye of pure happiness, and we shook hands and went on and had our breakfast, and there have been a couple of those. I announced the ladies and gentlemen to come up and receive their statue, and have other members of the board give the statues to them, and they take pictures. So I don't really get to see them close up, because when they're getting, I'm announcing somebody else to come up. So, but I've heard from other board members that they've seen some tears of happiness, and to follow that as far as how these are received, like I'd mentioned earlier, we have close to 300 waiting, and that keeps going, because every time we have a breakfast, there might be 6 or 7 new members come into the PAMVET Breakfast Club at the Golden Corral. So that means there's 6 or 7 more men and women that go on my list. So that 300 really doesn't ever slow down. It just kind of stays there. But since I started in 2018, I've got people coming up to me continuously at breakfast and says, "Where am I at? How soon am I going to get a statue?" Because they see what it means to the other people, and they look at the statue when they come bring it back to their table, and they're just happy and want to get one. So I've now had to modify my list alphabetically and put dates on about when they're going to get it, so I can answer those questions. Because when you have 300 people waiting, you got pages of names, and I can't find them all. So I had to kind of help myself being able to find them. But I can't get them fast enough, and I don't have a big enough venue to do it every week. And plus, it's a nonprofit, so money's an issue too. I got to wait until I got the money to buy the statues before I can honor some more veterans. But it's going good. I've not run out of money, and it's kind of like Christmas every week. I might get a little donation here, a little donation there, and it helps. And speaking of donations, I got an event coming up in a few days that is also going to help us buy some more statues.
That's awesome. Speaking of that, if people did want to donate, can they go to your website? Is that how they would do it?
We don't have a way to really accept donations on the website yet. That's something we're working on, to where they can just go in there and donate it. But if they do want to donate, all they got to do is mail a check to Veterans Honoring Veterans at 1151 Eagle Drive, number 304. That's a post office box that we have for Veterans Honoring Veterans, and that's in Loveland, 80537. Again, 1151 Eagle Drive, number 304, Loveland, Colorado, 80537. So, yeah, if anybody wants to help the cause, we'd certainly appreciate it.
That's awesome. Now, you have events coming up that you mentioned. I know one's on March 5th, and then you said another on the 7th, correct?
Yeah, one is a fundraiser. That's going to be on March 5th. And as I announced last week at the Breakfast Club, if you drink, you can come. If you don't drink, you can come. If you're just learning how to drink, you can come. Anybody that wants to have a beer can come, because the Rock Bottom Brewery in Loveland at the Centara shopping mall is honoring us on March 5th, and they're naming a beer. We was allowed to name it, so we came up with a name, VHV Taste of Freedom. And that's what the name of our beer is going to be, a kind of a light beer, California type beer. And for every beer that's sold, we get 25 cents of that beer, and that goes from March 5th when they do the tapping party until the end of March. So again, it's at the Rock Bottom Brewery at the Centara Shopping Center. I don't have the address in front of me, but it's from the tapping party from 5 to 7, but they're open until 9 o'clock that evening. So if you want to come and have a beer, please join us.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You guys have your own beer.
Well, yeah, we're hoping that we're talking to Brewmaster Mitch, and he's made several beers, and he don't want his beers to fail. So we're really hoping that this is a good beer and it sticks around for a long time. And that's kind of cool to have a beer named after your company.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Now, what about the event on the 7th? What's that one?
That's the 7th is going to be a present. No, we're not going to have one on the 7th. We're going to have one on the 21st.
Okay. There's
some stuff coming up on the 7th that we're going to postpone ours and let something else happen. But on the 21st, we're going to be honoring 8 veterans at the Golden Corral in Loveland. And by the way, I want to put a plug in for our host of these events, and that's the PAMVETS Breakfast Club. And PAMVET stands for Proud American Veteran, and it was started in 2008 by 2 World War II veterans who were meeting for coffee on Saturdays and just having fun talking to each other. And then pretty soon 2 more veterans came in, and 2 more came in, and pretty soon they outgrew the restaurant, McDonald's restaurant, so we had to find a full-size restaurant. And we've grown now to well over 1,000 veterans that have came through the doors of the PAMVET Breakfast Club, and we're averaging between 100 and 150 every Saturday morning. Now, that's not once a month. This is every Saturday morning at the Golden Corral. So if you're a veteran, or if you have a veteran in your family and you live within driving distance of Loveland, 7:30 every Saturday morning, come join us. We start with the pledge. We have a prayer, and then we ask for birthdays, anniversaries, and then we have breakfast, and we just sit around and talk.
Yeah, it's a great way to get involved with the veteran community.
It really is, and I really want to take my hats off to Northern Colorado. We have a very, very strong presence of veterans recognition type things of going on. Many 501c3s, they're out here helping veterans, and trust me, now more than ever, these veterans need a place to go and somebody to talk to and something to do. So Northern Colorado is just great about that. They're just fantastic.
Yeah. It's a great place to be for sure. If someone wants to get involved with veterans, honoring veterans specifically, is there a way they can volunteer or contact you?
Well, sure. I'm always looking for help in different things. So if they'd like to call me, again, my name is Bart, and last name is Bartholomew, and my phone number is 970-852-4050. Again, 970-852-4050, and call me, and we'll find out what you're good at, and if you'd like to help, we can sure put you to use.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming in, Bart. It was great to learn about your organization, and it's awesome what it's doing for the community. And thank you again for your service.
Well, thank you very much, Emily, for allowing Veterans Honor Veterans to get on the air and tell the people in Northern Colorado that don't know about us a little bit about us, and always remember that these statues that were given to these veterans are absolutely free to them. There's no cost to them. They paid enough, so that's what the honor is, and it's humble to do it. So, I also want to tell you, we've had everybody from an E2, which is the lowest rank in the military, and coming up on the 21st, we'll have a brigadier general, which is not the highest, but one of the higher ranks of the military. So it doesn't make any difference what rank you are, whether you're enlisted or officer. Everybody that walks in that door is a veteran, and that's all that counts. And it doesn't make any difference if you are a war hero or if you are a typist. You all are special to us, and that's what counts.
Well said. Thank you, Bart.
You betcha. Thank you very much for your time.
Again, that was Bart Bartholomew, the president of Veterans Honoring Veterans. Don't forget about their upcoming event and their own beer that will debut on March 5th at the Rock Bottom Brewery in Loveland. And if you would like more information, you can go to veteranshonoringveterans.org.